Say I want to make this into a pop-up card. So with this one, I wanted to show you how I cut a long panel this way, and I find the midpoint, and maybe you can just pinch the edges. Then you would position, this is the pop-up die from the Pop Accessories. It's just the simple little riser, and you can use it in the middle or wherever you like, but I thought it would be nice to move it a little bit to this side. And once I run it through my cutting machine, then I can train the folds from the back and push it so that ultimately with an inner and outer panel, let's put some little houses on here. So I might put those houses in the foreground and then some other ones behind it, and I could even have several of them like going up and down the hillside here. So anyway, that shows you the structure when you see it finished, how it comes together. And there you can see it from the side view. Here's another backdrop that I made that I decided the best way to do this would be to use the Pop Accessories die in two places on it. So I had to do it in steps. First I die cut this one and ran it through the machine. Then I repositioned it over here to this side, and this is only going to score, so if it overlaps a little bit, it didn't hurt anything. So I lined it up a second time and ran it through, and once I had pushed the levels on this, it gave me two little risers, and this will allow me to put houses going like this and this perhaps, and then I could even put some other ones in behind if I wanted. So anyway, there's another way that you can use it twice on the card. I did some more coloring with my color pencils on the houses, and I thought it was quite fun to create some whimsical colors here for the houses for that backdrop. And then with this one, I did some other, just stuck to the yellows and blues, and I can create a lot of fun little cluster there of houses. So those will be real fun, and I can glue them down flat, or I can layer them so that they're a little bit more 3D on the cards. This beautiful monoprint was created with the Creative Palette, and this gives you a way to work with a brayer and any kind of acrylic paints, and simply by spreading them out onto the clear palette. This one here is a clean one that hasn't even been used yet, and you can spread out your colors and then press your paper down, and each time you just get a different and interesting print. So I thought this would give me a really fun backdrop for a whole field of sunflowers. So I'm going to start by stamping my little houses and create the look of hillside, and then we'll add sunflowers. I'll mention while I'm doing this, I was in Germany years ago in a small village that had the most wonderful flower patch, sort of out on the edge of town, and they had gladiolas in every different color and type, and you could pick your gladiolas and then just put your money in this little bank box there that was on a post. And I thought, oh, what fun. So they had sunflowers as well, and it looked like it was the end of the crop, you know, where they let people come and pick some of the last ones. But the sunflowers were just so beautiful, and the gladiolas too. So I would love to live in an interesting place like that where you could go and find all your beautiful sunflowers in the field. So here we're going to imagine a fun little cottage here off in the distance and our beautiful flowers in the foreground. I'm using the stencil. The free stencil or template is giving me all of these cutout shapes. So if I cover up this impression, you can do another one behind. I'm liking the yellow so much, I don't think I want a whole lot of greens, but this is going to give me a fun look, and I'll let that dry and then I'll enjoy doing some color pencil work on top. If you don't have a stamp that comes with dies or stencils, and it's a simple shape like this, I'd like to show you some quick tips to make your own custom mask. So let's take our little houses here, and I'm just going to stamp on the sticky note, and actually this is my sticky edge down here. And given the size and shape of this, I think I'm going to make use of that bottom straight edge. So stamp on your sticky notes, and since these are thin, while you're at it, who knows, you might need a couple of them. You might as, so I've got 3 sheets here, and when you go to cut it out, you can cut all 3 at the same time. And if anything, cut just inside the lines, and then the thickness of the paper won't create any little gap. Okay, so even the blank ones now are not going to be a problem. They're going to fit exactly. So now let's stamp the rest of the village. And now for the reveal. Ha! Got the whole village there. So this is just very fun, easy way to create a whole little higgledy-piggledy cottages that go up the hillside. Then I finished coloring this one, and the colors were so bright, and then I was afraid to die cut it because I wasn't sure what I was doing. So anyway, this is going to make a fun card just as a flat one here, and I can 3D this if I want. The last time I was in England, I got to visit this wonderful little town in Cornwall called Clovelly. And we noticed in the little brochure that they were doing a yarn bombing. And so we found this little town, and I have to admit I was limping that day. I had sprained my ankle a little bit, and we started at the top of the hill, and it was so steep, and we worked our way down the cobblestone street. And this is an old postcard that shows how they used to have the donkeys to help carry things up and down. And here was just another one. And I found these online when I came home, because I realized as I worked my way down the hill, I was taking pictures of all the cottages left and right. And although you can't see real well in this picture, the yarn bombing means they had covered all sorts of things with decorative knitting and crocheting, and this entire doorway was covered with a crocheted or a knit pattern. And the cottages were so cute, and you work your way all the way down this steep hill, and you end up at the beautiful harbor. You can just see the ocean through there. So these were a couple of my photos. But what I realized after I got home was I never turned around and took a picture back up the hill. So that's where I Googled it and was able to find these lovely old postcards that showed the steepness and the interest of the hills. Okay, so then I decided I wanted to create that sort of thing with my stamping. And again, to do a stamp of the houses that way was kind of tricky. So instead, I'm using my wonderful little set of the houses and the home here. And so I've stamped all of these houses, and with the little post-it note masks I'd created, now I'm going to go back and cover this up again, and we'll see if we can create our very own cobblestone street here. And I think the scale of these houses is a lot more fun, and I can create the illusion of the hill by just creating this opening in between. And I had so much fun visiting Port Isaac, which is where they filmed the Doc Martin series, and they explained about all of these little houses, how they just keep adding to them, and they might start with one cottage. And you know that a postcard identified that the town of Port Isaac, which is called Port Wen in the Doc Martin series, was actually first recorded at some point in history in I think it was 1348, and I'm mixing up some of these dates. But anyway, it's just amazing to me to think that this town has been added on to and added on to. And all these cottages go up the side of the hill, and several of them, they'll start with one cottage and then they'll build 3 walls to do the next one. So they really are higgledy-piggledy, as you might say, going up the hill. So I was thinking about stencils would give me a way to create that cobblestone pattern. And first I thought of this one, which is really interesting as a mosaic pattern. But since this one's a little bit big, this one I think works really well. And I'm even going to put it on tilt a little bit just for interest here. And let's see what this does. So I'm using an ink pad. I should pull that a little bit more into view for you. Okay, I'm using an ink pad with a lot of different shades of color. And with my Dreamweaver stencil brushes, I've got some dark colors on this one already. So let's just test it here to make sure we're not too dark. This is almost like a Payne's gray color. And now that the houses are masked out, I can simply go wild here in the foreground. And if I were working from off in the distance, it would get a little bit darker colors in the foreground. So we'll just come in here with this a little bit and even go across the front. And I'm just being careful to not go over the edge. And let's add a little bit of some slightly different color here. I had some browns this time, and we don't want it to look too uniform anyway, so we'll just add a bit of color. The cobblestones in Clavelli, they had a break every so often that I guess would keep you from tumbling all the way down the hill on a rainy day. So, and I was really hobbling that day with my ankle, but I wouldn't have wanted to miss it, and it was a lovely town. And of course, when we got down to the bottom of the hill, we were able to pay for a ride to go back up the hill around the road that went to the other side, because no cars can go up and down this cobblestone. So, okay, well that I think looks really fun, and that's probably just enough interesting color that now we'll take our masks away. And of course we can just keep reusing these. Ah, that works very fun. And now I can do any different color scheme with all of the little houses. So here I've trimmed it down. I kept as much of it as would run through my Sizzix machine for cutting. And I found the midpoint, and then I used this same die from the Pop Accessories. And again, I lined it up to the bottom edge of that row of houses, and I wanted some more houses here, and I didn't want to block my little cobblestone street. So now, with some extras, what I cut off the edge, I can now, and you can see this hopefully from the side, there's that little riser. So now I could put these houses in front, and I can add some more houses that I can sort of 3D the effect here, and I think that really gives me a nice little 3D effect. So just a simple pop-up work.